Okay, this is a little preamble I'm added to the front of the video to explain something important, and that has to do with this region selection. Sorry, region selection here at the top of the page. So you noticed, notice please, that I'm using U.S. West Oregon, and so do you, or so should you. Some of the resources that are used to finish the project are only found on or in this region. So if you were to select US West or I don't see a central, that's kind of odd. But anyway, some other region, and you would find some of the resources unavailable and you'd have a problem. So again, before you start the project, make sure that you've selected US West, Oregon as your region. Okay, this is the video supporting the AWS project for 4352 software engineering. This video largely will be going over the project description document, and I'm going to place it on YouTube at the not this address. It'll be a new document. We'll talk about the architecture and class. So needed resources from eLearning, the project description file, which we're looking at now. There's going to be an application war file, which contains the app that we'll be deploying on Tomcat. And again, this will be something we'll talk about in class. There's going to be an SQL script that will be used to initialize the database that the application will need. And then, then I've included the Eclipse project that this was all based on. So interested students can download and have a look at how it was built. It's nothing special. It is nothing special, but you know, if you're interested. So you have to have this is an AWS project, so you have to have an AWS account. And so now that means you have to be able to log on to Amazon. It means you have to have an active Amazon account, a retail account, and then you have to sign up for AWS. I'm not covering that, but when all is done, we will have, you'll be able to sign on to the console. Good. And you'll be presented a management console, something like this. If you don't see this, then just up here is this like a home, console home. So you press that, and it takes you to this page, minus these maybe. So then, let's get rid of that, tabs. So you also need an SSH client to log into the servers that you'll be creating. If you're using Windows 10, OS X, or Linux, then you'll have access to an OpenSSH client. Now, Windows 10 doesn't come with SSH enabled by default, so if you haven't, if you're running Windows 10 and haven't enabled OpenSSH, then you need to go online and enable SSH. If you're using Windows 7, then you're going to have to load PuTTY or another SSH client. So PuTTY is an open source SSH client, and that's, you know, there's a PuTTY download here. But I would suggest you find a Windows 10 machine or Linux or whatever, and use OpenSSH. So to test if you have OpenSSH running, you can run a command. And then with the command, you do SSH, and you should get that response back. And if you don't get that response, then you need to get it going before you could do any further work. Okay. You're also going to need to have installed MySQL Workbench, because this tool will be used to connect to and load the schema onto onto the database you'll be creating, and that is installed. I've had it installed. Again, there's a lot of videos for how to set this up. Let me delete this one so I can. This is the old one. So delete. Okay, so ignore these. They're just for my own use. You probably have nothing here if you've not installed MySQL, but it's running, so we'll come back to that. We'll come back to this. Okay, so start it going. You'll be, this is the following steps, major steps in the process. Make sure you have an Amazon account. Now, what you'll need to do, if this is the first time you've used it, then you need to create a public and private key. So, I didn't test this, so I'm not 100% certain how to. I don't remember 100% certain. So give me a second here. It's probably under security. Do I have it mentioned here? Wow. I don't feel like starting the video over again, so just bear with me a second. Storage, database, migration. I think, okay, if it's not here, I think it's under, so you go to EC2, and, right here. Okay, that's where it is. So EC2, so I clicked on EC2, that took me to the EC2 dashboard, and then go to key pairs, and then I have a bunch of key pairs here that I only use one of. So what you'd want to do is create a key pair and give it a name. Pair, I want to get rid of it. So if you're using PuTTY, then you want to keep it on PPK, but if you're using OpenSSH, then select the PEM option. You'll need a tag, then create the key pair, and then downloads. So then you can drag this onto your desktop, and then you need to save it. Because once now that it's downloaded, you can't recreate it. So you'll be using this key pair to log onto your, create and log onto your Linux servers, EC2 servers. And if you lose this, then you won't be able to log onto the servers you're creating. So don't lose the file. Drag it onto your desktop. I'm not showing my desktop, but if I were to, it would show up on my desktop. But I'm not going to use the server. I'm going to be using one I created for myself much earlier. So let's say, what I would suggest is you do is go to put it on your PC. So I'll put it on C, and I just have a folder called temp. So I'll drag it out of there into there. So there's, it's available. I'm not going to use it. I'm using that one. But anyway, see, so now you have the PEM file. Okay. Let's look at the instructions. Then we'll create the database server. Then we'll install the database server. We'll install the database schema on the server. Then we're going to create and launch a machine, an Amazon EC2 server, which is essentially a server, Linux virtual machine. We'll configure the Tomcat application server with the application, and then we'll install it and launch it. And once we have one server running the application correctly, We'll duplicate that server two more times because we need 3 servers. Create the first one and then duplicate it twice of the second one. And then we'll have the database set up. And then once we have 3 servers running, we'll create the load balancer and we'll test it and then we'll be done. Sounds simple, but there's a lot going on here. So here we go. All right. Ignore this document's being updated. So logged on to AWS. We'll only be using key management server. Well, we already went over it. EC2 and RDS. Okay, here I went over building the key pair. I just needed to read my own instructions, and I shouldn't have struggled, but I thought I knew what I was doing. So anyway, this goes over that. Remember, if you're using PuTTY, then you need a PPK file, and if you're using OpenSSH, then you'll need the PEM file. They both serve the same purpose. I guess they're just different formats. Okay, so here we go on AWS. So I'll just return to the console, and I will scroll down to databases, and I will select RDS. And okay, then I'll go to instances. I'm going to, don't use this. Do not use that. It'll set you up with something incorrect. So instances. And now this is just one I have running for my database course. So let's create a new one. Create database. And goodbye. So standard create. I don't know. Easy create might be easier, but let's not use it. Then MySQL is important. And addition MySQL community is correct. Then just take the default at 8.0.20. So just leave that alone. Here's an important thing. Put this to free tier. It won't cost you anything, or will cost the least amount. So free tier. Now you have to give it a name. So this will be the name of the server as it shows up on the console. So I'll call it To-Do Web App DB. Okay. Just leave at admin. I wouldn't let it auto-generate a password for you. I would set your own. So I'm going to do my own. You'll see it in a minute, so it doesn't matter. And then confirm it, of course. Okay, let me look at my instructions so I don't forget anything. Okay, so MySQL option, community, 8.20, free tier, web service DB. What did I call it? Doesn't matter what you call it. I'm not sure why I'm even looking. Oh, there it is, To-Do Web App. So let's use my name. Let's just copy and paste there. I'll remain consistent. And don't bother. That's good, that's good. That's good, that's good, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's okay. All right, this is important right here. So, yes, you want public access. If you don't select this, it's not going to work. Then create a new security group. So a VPC, Virtual Public Cloud Security Group, is their equivalent to a firewall. And so second. Okay, so I'll call it To-Do. Well, let's just use that name I used before. Web Service DB SG for security group. Now I'm going to open up a editor and paste that. Because I have a bunch of security groups and I don't know which one. You won't have this problem, but I personally have a ton of unused security groups. And I have to remember which one we're using. I don't think there's anything under additional configuration. Let's see. I just finished updating this document last couple of hours. It's a couple of 4 hours. And retain password. I don't know if that's actually being used. Well, we'll leave it alone. Okay. So remember that. That's good. Don't change the port number. Oh, that's what that refers to. That bullet refers to retain password authentication. So yeah, so password authentication. Don't change that. Don't use IMS or IAM database. And I think that's it. No additional configuration. Don't worry about that. So we'll create the database. Hopefully this works. All right, so it showed up. Web Service DB. Select it. And notice that it is in the state of its status is creating. And it will remain in that for a few minutes. So there's our security group. I didn't need to remember it, but I couldn't have heard it. So let's click on that and set that up correctly. So like I said, the security group is their call for their answer for firewalls within your subnet that is set up for your account. You're working within your own personal subnet or virtual public cloud. They like to call it subnet of VPC. We'll select the security group to change it. And we didn't have to change this. We used to be able to have to set this, but this is set correct right now. This is basically saying connect from anywhere. Whereas before, even though we said it was public, we still had to open up the firewall, the security group, to outgoing connections or incoming connections. Sorry, from incoming connections. All right, so that's actually working. Okay, so then I'll go back to the console, and then now I'll have RDS up here, so I'll click on that. And we'll go to instances right there. Now we have 2. And still in creating. So I hate stopping the video. I can't pause the video to recording, but I have to wait till this goes to initializing before I can connect it. We can connect to it. So I guess I'm going to have to pause the video and come back when this is working. It just will be a second for you. Okay, we're back. It should be running. The database should be running. I said software engineering before. I obviously meant software architecture. So let's go back to our browser. And here I am hitting home. And we'll go to RDS. And DB instances 2 is running. Okay, so now it doesn't say finish, but it says backing up, and that's good enough. So the status. So let's select. Now we're going to log into this server using MySQL Workbench. And to do that, we need the address, the DNS address, public DNS address. So that's the endpoint. And make sure you get the whole thing, the whole string. Don't leave a comma off or something. Okay, so then I'll go to start MySQL Workbench. And I need to create a new connection for that server. So plus. Now I give it a name. Whatever. To do web app DB. Now I'm replacing the local host with that name and make sure it's .com, and let's go to the front web service. So we got the whole thing. Now, it's admin, and then one of the nice things you can do is test the connection before trying to use it. So we'll hit test connection, and then the password that you entered before. And you can save it so you don't have to enter it again, and then now we're just testing the connection. And so successfully made, so that means the server is running on AWS, it's listening at that name, and we made a connection with it, so all is good. So let's hit OK. A new connection is there, and so we double click on that, and it opens up a new server, and notice there's no databases or schemas, the same thing, installed on that server. So we have a server running, but we haven't loaded a database schema into the server yet, so we're not seeing anything in this view. So let's do that now. That is accomplished by going to your to the documents that I provided on e-learning. One of them is the to-do DB schema. So just drag that into the query one page like that, and then it shows up in a tab. Or you could open it, file open, SQL script if you wanted to, or any number of ways. But you have to load this into, and then to execute the script. Now this is just SQL. One table, only a few columns in it. You don't really need to understand it for the course. It should, when you hit execute, don't have anything selected. Make sure you don't have anything selected like that. And then it says execute the selected portion, but nothing selected, or everything if there is no selection. So that's what we want. So hit there, and it kind of does this set of operations. They're all green. They're all good. Now refresh this view, and this to-do database should show up. And then if you drill down on tables, you'll see to-do, and that's the table, and you can do that. So by default, there's one entry in that default table. Okay, so that's done. You could leave it running if you want. You could look at it later. All right, so now the database is set up. Okay, so I should maybe pause the video here, and no, or not. Let's not do that. Okay, so that's all done. And we configured the database server security group. I showed you that. We opened it up, but it was opened by default. So I should make a note of that. Sorry, I'm going to update this document. Okay. We configured this workbench. I showed you, created a new connection. This is just an example. Endpoint. I showed you how to get that. Then installed the schema, as I showed you how to do that. So we're up to here, create a new EC2 server. All right, now hopefully everything that I'm showing you will be the same, because I'm rebuilding. One of the reasons for my rebuilding this video is because steps have changed since I put the video together a couple years ago. It seems like every 6 months Amazon likes to redo likes to redo their GUI, their screens. Like I said, I just want to get this over with. You can see the time as well as I can. I want to finish this, and so I can present it tomorrow. Okay, so from the console, going back to the console, now select Services EC2. And then select, well, instances, select instances from here. That's better. Okay, so these are two servers that I have running for my database, not my database, my operating system scores, so don't worry about those. So we're going to create one server, configure it, get it running, and then I'm going to show you how to clone that 2 more times. So you can follow through here. From console, select EC2. So here we are, the EC2 dashboard. From EC2, select instances link. That's what we did. Select launch instance in the upper right corner. So I just want to follow along so I'm sure that my instructions are going to work. Okay, so now you're going to use AIMs or AMIs. I'm sorry, are Amazon Machine Images. It says right up there, Amazon Machine Images. And I have one set up in a community AMI that has, it's a Linux server with Tomcat and the application all installed and ready to go. So you want to find that, and you can find that by going here and then searching for SC4352, search, and that should come up with UTD SC4352 Tomcat. So that's the one you want to use, okay? So here's an important point that I should have mentioned earlier. You have to be logged into the Oregon region. So there's all kinds of regions, and some of you may have picked West or East, and I'm sorry if that's what you did. Again, I don't want to reshoot the first video. I don't want to have to do the videos over. So if you built the database on East, you'll have to take it down, delete it so you don't get billed for it, and then select US West. Maybe I'll append I'll append something to the first video, in front of the first video. But yeah, make sure that you're on US West. The reason why is because that is the region that I have this AMI installed. So if you're on West, North California or East or any other region for that matter, when you do the search for 4352, you won't find this server. Okay, so I'm on West Oregon, and we found it. So we select it. And then select the first option, and then go to Review and Launch, and then scroll down to Security Group, Edit Security Group. Now you want to create a new security group, although I have a ton of them, but I'll just create another one. So give it a name, retain the name, of course. So this would be my to-do web server SG for security group. So like I say, I have a bunch of them, so I'm going to write that one, record that one so I don't select the wrong one in a minute. Okay, so now we want to, this is correct, anywhere. Well, that's correct, anywhere. So we need two, this server needs two security groups for 2 ports. We need a port 22 for SSH, and it by default sets one up, but you want to select anywhere, which means you can log onto it from any IP address. And then we'll want to add a rule and just leave it custom and set it for port, one second, make sure I get it right. Right down here. port 2240, 352. That shouldn't be hard to remember. So cut that right here, this point right here. So just a second here. These were markers I placed in the document as I was going over it earlier and editing it as needed. So, okay, here we were. We have the SSH port, and now add rule and leave it at custom TCP, protocol TCP, port range 4352. So 4352, and then anywhere again, does like that, and then we're done. So create a new, gave it a name. Don't worry about that. SSH 22 anywhere, custom 4352 anywhere, then review and launch. And it doesn't like the fact that I'm opening up the security group to the world, but that is what it is. And so it looks like that now. And I think I just launch it now. Yeah, just launch it. Okay, now it's going to make a select the security group, the key pair that you created in the first step. So choose an existing key pair. I mean, you could create a new one, but the one you created. And then I'm going to use, remember, this is what I made, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use this one. Whatever you named it. Then you have to acknowledge, and then launch the instance. And then, I've never done this. I'm not sure what this is. Not much very interesting. Go back to the console. Now EC2 should be up here. Select that. Instances. And we have this one is pending. While it's pending, let's name it so we can identify it later. So we're going to call it to-do web app 01, because we're going to create 3 of them eventually. So 01, 02, 03. Obviously 01 is the first. And now it's running, so that's good. And so now we're going to, let's look at the instructions. Okay. So this could have been, I could have done this earlier in the file after we created the PM file, but it comes up now. So if you're on Linux, then you have to change it owner only plus, or Windows, not Windows, OS X. You have to change it to, read owner only, read, write, execute, or just actually read only. So these instructions are for Windows only. So there's so what the thing is, and it would be interesting to see the error, but if you try and follow the instructions further on here, log into new server, and your SSH client throws this, your open SSH client on Windows 10 gives you this error. That means, you have to change the permissions on on that file. The PEM file. So I'll do it now, just to be sure. But there's a really good YouTube video right here that'll show you how to fix that. So let's go to that directory where I placed. I don't want to use that one. Let's just do it here. So I remember I placed it on C:temp. That's my own, I put a TEM file under C. Now this one already is set up correctly. So this is the one I'm going to throw away, but we'll do the change with this one. Now I have to remember how to do it. So go to security, and then go to advanced, and then disable inheritance. So notice we have this file has all these permissions on it. And we don't want those. We need to get rid of these. So disable inheritance, and then remove. You want to remove, and this is exactly what that video will show you. So now we have a file with no permissions at all, but we want to add. So we're going to do an add, and then we want to select a principal. So what you have to do is you have to, whatever user you're logged in as, when you set up your Windows machine, you gave it a name, and I know mine is Mike. So check names, and it'll be desktop, blah, blah, blah. This is not a security issue, Mike. So whatever you're logged in as, you need to identify, check the name in and then do check names, and because you need this whole string. And then that's selected, so add. So now Mike Christensen, desktop, blah, blah, blah. Allow, and I think technically we only need read and, but read and execute works too. So I'm leaving these two on. And then OK, and then apply. And see it changed now to only one user, and with those permissions, which is OK. So OK and OK. So you need to do that to the PEM file that you downloaded when you created your key pair, earlier in the video. Otherwise, you get that error. Okay. So now we're going to log onto the server. So we'll select the server, instance ID, and what we need is, here again, we need the DNS name so we can, log into it with our SSH client. So you could either, do this and copy, or just, in this case, it gives us a little handy copy thing. So copied it to our paste buffer. And now I'm going to start a command shell. And I'm going to, again, test SSH. Okay, so now I'm going to CD, I'm going to do C:, I want to get to that directory where the file was installed, the PM file was. So C:, CD temp, and dir, and then, again, I'm going to use this one here. Now, this is not a very good name, to be honest. It's a rather poor name. But it's the name I gave it, so I'm not going to change it. But you shouldn't put spaces in the name, and you shouldn't try to put slashes. So just give it a single, simple name. You'll be much better off. To make that work, you need to, well, here's kind of an interesting thing I found. If you have the server, I'm trying to select the server. Here we go. Okay. So let me see here. So we have, it's not open. It's not active for some reason. Let's see if it becomes active here. No, it doesn't. This was kind of neat. Oh, because the instance state is still pending. I'm not even sure we'll be able to log onto it yet. Instances. It says it's running. This shouldn't be pending anymore. Let's go back and look again. Oh, now it's running. And now the connect is enabled. So down here, for SSH, if you click on these different tabs, here's SSH client. This will give you the string you need, except mine is a little bit different. So you could copy and paste that, or you could just, enter it in. And the document gives you a little help too on how to log in. And the tricky bit is you make sure you have to, specify the use. So you're going to log in as server, the EC2 server, using this ID, EC2 user dash user. So, so I'm going to paste it in. Now the thing that's wrong is this is not my file name. It's actually underscore. I think that'll work. Oh, and another thing it does wrong. So this is not very helpful actually at all, now that I'm noticing it. This needs to be EC2 server, EC2 user. It's strange that they would put root there when you can't use root to log in. Maybe someone should report that as a bug. Okay, so, and the quotes are important because this file name has spaces in it. And so SSH -I space, and then the name of the file that's in the current directory. Quotes around it because the file name has spaces. And then the space after the quote. EC2 user, EC2-user, and then the name of the server as was reported right here. No, right. Where is it? Tired. Oh, it was up further, up here. Or you could use the IP address, which is right there. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, that's good. Yes, it has something to do with security, but let's ignore it. Yes, we want to continue using this address. And then, if all works correctly, you'll be logged into your server. Now, this is Unix, and so to look in, it's ls, and there's just one file in there. Don't worry about it. And so now you're ready to set up the server. Okay, so let me look at my document so I'm following along correctly. Let's ignore this. Okay, this is something else I should remove. It's changed. So I'm going to remove that, see if it works. Okay, so what we need to do is first let's see if the server, the Tomcat server is running. So what we can do is we can do a ps -ef, and that will list all the processes that are running on the server. And there's a lot of them. And so to find out whether the Tomcat server is running, do ps -f and then type that into grep Tomcat. And it is running. So we have Tomcat running at that process ID, and these are all the command line arguments. It's a Java program. Tomcat is a Java application server, so it's running Java. So it's all running. So we can test that. So what we can do is to the browser. Let me see if my right. Okay, good. Just make sure. So in the browser, open up a new tab, and then is that address still in my paste buffer? No, it's gone. So I need that address again. So I'll go back to this management tab, and I'll copy this address again, and I'll come back here, and I'll paste that in, and then it's not running at port 80, it's running at port 4352. So that's important. And then we're ready, go. And then if you're lucky, well, not lucky, if you follow the instructions, like it has nothing to do with it, you'll have this, this is the default home page for the app server. So this service, this Tomcat server received your request at that port number that's configured to run at, and presented this home page. Now this is Tomcat 8, and I think it's Tomcat 12 now. So this project's a couple, 3 or 4 years old at this point, and so but Tomcat 8 is working fine, and I don't feel like updating Tomcat to the latest version because it really wouldn't change this experience at all. So here we are. So let's try one more thing just to make sure it's all looking. So hit Manager App. And now this is a secure page, so you have to give it an address, log into it, and then that login. See these red? Ignore these red. Is Tomcat 123, and then the password's admin 123. So. And then, boom, I don't save it. So these are all the applications that are running. You could click on these if you're interested and go to like examples, and it'll give you some examples. But anyway, this tells us that the server is running correctly and all's right with the world. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to have to stop the server because we're going to need to change a configuration file. So we're going to go to our server, and then we're going to do a, I don't know if I need to do this. We'll see if this works. I'm experimenting with something new. I won't go into the details here, but I had a problem and I figured out how to solve it. So let's try it. So we want to stop the server. So there's these commands, Tomcat 8 stop and Tomcat 8 start. But it's important that the user Tomcat is used. So this command sudo allows us to change our account, the ID we're logged in as, temporarily. And so this is saying sudo change my ID for this command -u, and then the name of the ID, the account name is Tomcat, and then this is the command Tomcat 8 start and stop. Okay, so let's see if this works. Otherwise, I'll have to switch to being root. And it's not a problem, but so here, sudo -u Tomcat cat 8 stop. And then we do an up arrow to get back to that grep or that PS. And let's see if it's running. So it's no longer running because we did PS -EF grep for Tomcat, and the only thing that comes back is our process, the one we're running, the grep. So the Tomcat server is stopped. To start it, it's just the opposite. Oh, notice too, if I go here to this page, try to refresh it, it's going to time out because the server is not running. To start it, sudo -u Tomcat start. And we'll give it a few seconds. Do our PS again. Back to running. And here we could do the refresh. And server's back up. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to change the Tomcat configuration file to reflect the address of the database. So go back here, Tomcat server access. So the database is running and the server is running, but the Tomcat server running on this app server, doesn't know the address of the database. So it can't contact the application running, can't contact the database to, save data. So we need to fix that configuration. So we have the only way to do that, the only practical way of doing that is through the console, this login. So I'm going to do the stop, sudo -tomcat, stop it, and you could check to see if it's running. It's not running. So now that it's stopped, we can change that file. So let's go to, now this is the instructions, big red blob. Okay, so, here I'm looking at this. So first thing we might want to do is go to the log file. So cd/user/share, and you can just hit return, tab for autocomplete, Tomcat, and then logs. Well, here's the Tomcat installation directory. So here we have the config directory, and we have a directory with the log files. So the log files are helpful for you to debug, if something's not working correctly. So cd logs, and the one you would be interested in is catalina.out. But right now, we know everything is working, so let's just not worry about it. So we're going to do a CD to user share Tomcat and config. Okay, so we're going to want to modify server.xml, but let's first make a backup copy of it in case it gets messed up. So copy cp server.xml to server.xml.orig, or however you want to do it. Okay, it's not letting me do it. So need to switch to root. So sudo -i. Notice right now my user is EC2 user, the one we logged into it. Sudo -i. And notice my account changes to root. So let's do the copy again. Oh, wait a second. I just switched to that directory. cd/user/share Tomcat config, and then copy server.xml to server.xml.orig. And then ls-l shows us the properties and owners. So server.xml owned by Tomcat. That's good. We want to keep it that way. This is the file we just created, owned by root. We may not need it, so don't worry about it. You could, if you did this, what you might do is chown Tomcat. This is where my Unix foo is failing me. I haven't done this in a very, very long time. Server.orig. That's myself. And chgrp Tomcat oops. Okay, else myself. Okay, now log out of you might need to keep logged in as well, let me try it. I hate being logged in as root, so let's exit. And we're back to EC2 user, and then vi server.xml warning files read only. Yeah, I can't do it. So control Q to quit. Oops. Escape. Control escape. Q. Bang. sudo -i. Have to be root. Okay. Back to being root. Okay, so now you have to manually edit this file, and there's just no way around it. You could, if you're, know what you're doing, you could copy this file to your Windows machine and then edit it on in Windows and then copy it back, or you could use a Unix editor, which I'm going to do. Now I should use VI because I'm most familiar with VI, but I'll try using Nano because that's everyone's choice these days. But I'm not very good at it. No, I'm not going to do it. If you know how to use Nano, use Nano. Just edit the file. I know VI much more than Nano. So server.xml. And again, I'm logged in as I changed I did sudo -i to change to root so I could edit the file. Oh. Oh, because I have to change the directory. Okay, so one of the things about you can't use the mouse to select, you have to use the up and down arrows to navigate. And what we need to do is we need to insert some data, a new entry, a new resource entry between the old resource entry, the one that's in there now, and this tag. So here's how I would suggest doing it. So this is configuring, there we are, we're configuring the Tomcat data source. Make sure you stop the server, so make sure that the Tomcat server is not running. Otherwise, my experience was that if I change the file and then restart Tomcat to pick up the new changes, it overwrites the file back to its original. So, so what you want to do is go to the bottom of this file. So here's what I would suggest to make it easy. Pick up your, whatever your favorite Windows editor, or, whatever operating system you're on, your favorite, windowed editor, and then copy the whole thing, okay? It starts on a new page. The whole thing from the open resource tag to the close tag. That's what that is the close tag. So copy it, and then paste it, and then make double sure that you have it correct. I'm just putting 4 spaces in there. So, see, I got the whole thing with the closing tag. Now we want to edit this. 3 places we want to edit. We want to change the address of the database. We want to change the ID that we use and the password we use to set up the database. So you should have written that down. So to get the ID, the address I mean, we can go back to here, and we can go to console, RDS. Maybe I should have copied this earlier. And databases, the one we're created. And right here, we need the endpoint. Make sure you get the whole thing. Control C. And then here you have to replace everything between the two, including the 2 angle braces, with that text. So the whole thing. Make sure you keep the // don't change the URL, the JDBC URL. So that's correct. So if you don't get this right, obviously it's not going to work. For the ID, admin, and for the password, whatever password you use, remember, use that to log in through. That's my throwaway password. And so that's all correct. Just take a second, look at it. We didn't leave any of the angles in there. That's got to go. Everything looks fine. Okay, so now I would copy and we'll go back to my editor. Now this is, again, this is VI, so I'm going to hit I to insert. Oops, no. I don't remember VI that well. I want to go to line above and then hit I to insert. And so, no, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I can't hit Control Z. Totally losing it. So escape, undo, then here I, and then return. Okay, I'm not sure what I did wrong before. Okay, so now again, you could use Nano. This is probably the most difficult thing about this process. Then copy, and you paste using the right mouse key, the right mouse button, but we pasted it into that. So again, the whole thing. Now hit escape. I'm in VI, so I'm going to hit escape. If you're in Nano, you have to do something else. So notice that this closing resource tag matches the global naming resource tag at the top. And this resource, which was there originally, is not modified. And we've added this new resource. And now I'm going to write it. And then quit. Okay, so, and then if you wanted to, you could just type, cat or more. Maybe do more is better, or less. Just more and less. Server.xml, and just have a look. You can page through it, and yeah, it looks good. Hit escape, or how do I quit that? Q, yeah. Like I said, that's if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, so yes, minus, okay, so I'm logged in as root. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to avoid logging as root, but I can't. PS minus EF, make sure the server was not running. Nope, not running. So I'll do sudo minus iu tomcat. Oh, sorry. Remembered something else I wanted to do. Go to /user/share tomcat logs return ls. Okay, so if there is an error, we'll see it in this catalina.out file. But right now, that bell is really bothering me. I'm sure it's bothering you as well. We'll out that. We'll look at the contents, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. So Q for end. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that file before we restart the server. Let's remove the file so that it'll recreate the file when it starts, and we'll see it'll be easier to spot any errors. So rm catalina.out. Yes, I would. It's gone. Okay, so now we'll start the server. Hopefully it all works. sudo minus u tomcat. Let's start. And then we can verify that a couple of ways. First, see if it's running by, I'm just scrolling through my history, doing the PS, and it's running. That's a good start. And then here we are still in the log file, the logs directory. So let's look at Catalina. And for better or for worse, I can't show you an error because there's no errors in here. But if you saw there's an exception, a stack trace from an exception in Java, I'm sure you've seen it 1,000 times, in this file, then there's a problem. And it would have to be you didn't enter this correctly. If you got the wrong password, you'd see the file. If you gave it the wrong admin name, you'd see that exception. If the web service address is not entered correctly, as shown here, you'd see an exception. So that would be when you inserted it into the server.xml file, if you didn't get the spacing, correct, the insertion correct, you'd see an error. But no error, so it's working. All right. So let's look at our document. Okay, so let's go back to create an EC2 server. All right. We configured the security group. We changed permissions on the PEM file. We logged into the server, saw it working. You know what? This is probably good, seeing how we had to change it anyway. I'm just going to leave that in. Oops. Switch to root. Then test the server by logging in through a browser. And then continue to the manager application and using that ID and password. And then this is how to start and stop. No, this is definitely incorrect now. These are definitely not needed. Okay. Something here. I need to put a little more explanation though. So I'm going to re-edit this. Red. Okay. Talked about the log file. Configuring the data source. We went over that. Retest it. So like I said, I looked at the log. I deleted Catalina, then started the log file. You can do the tail if you want. I don't know if it's necessary. And then look for errors. So then I restarted the server and did a grep for Tomcat. We saw it was running. And so now we're ready to install the web application. So we'll go back to, maybe we can go back to the beginning, the home page. And because the server is running, we're seeing this home page. Now we go to Manager. Oh, I'm already in Manager. Wanted to show you not being a manager for some reason. It wants, okay, so now we're seeing that this is the home page for the server. Manager. Now it didn't prompt for the ID and password the second time. It's okay. Now we're going to install that WAR file. So now you have had to have downloaded, oops, you can't see that. You've had to have downloaded this file right here. This is the application archive that contains the HTML file. I mean, we could open it up if we wanted to. So this is the contents. Here's the web page, the root page, index.html, and this is under meta-inf is all of the, web-inf are the classes, are the class files that make up this application. And again, if you're interested, you can install that Eclipse project, and it has all the source code for this project. But what we need to do right now is we need to install this WAR file on this application server. So the way to do that, the easiest way to do that is allow it to do that. So select the WAR file to upload. So choose File. And then we have to navigate to that file, wherever you put it on your PC. I have it there, obviously. Open. And that's good. And then deploy. And then, crossing fingers, you see it's thinking, and boom, and it showed up, and there's our app. So now the application is available at that address. So you can type that in here, but the easiest thing to do is just click on that link there. And that's the application. Now, it's just, I didn't mention it earlier, it's just a simple application where you can enter to-dos. My to-do, and just, some stuff, I don't care. And then add it, and then it shows up. And then you can mark them completed, and then if you do hide completed, they don't show up. The ones completed don't show up. So another one, and so on. Another thing this thing does that'll be important a bit is you can get the server info right there. This is the IP address of the server, the local IP address of the server. But anyway, okay, so it's running. So now you can continue. All right, let's look at our document. All right, restarting EC2 server from console. After restarting to-do application should be available without any manual intervention. So what you might do at this point, just to see if everything's working correctly, is go to the console, go to EC2, and then go to instances, and then see it's running. And I'm kind of hesitant to do this, but just to make sure it works, because it takes a while, it's going to take a bit of time. Select the server, app 1, and then actions or instance state. Let's stop the instance. And now, see, it still says it's running, but here's a refresh, and there it's stopping. Now at this point I want to restart it, but it won't let me start until it finished stopping. I guess that makes sense. So you have to wait a few minutes for this to transition from stop to start. So I think this is a good place to break the video for a moment and into another part. And it'll be, see you in a second. Okay, I'm back and the server is shut down. So let's restart it. It actually starts pretty quickly. So having selected the server, instance state, start instance, and refresh, pending, should go pretty quick. Running, there we go. Okay, so let's see if it worked, if it started. I was trying to make sure it restarts correctly or it won't work later on. So here we have a new address. Like I may have said, every time you restart the server, AWS provides it a different IP address. So copy that, go to our browser, paste that in, call in 4352 / well, let's just start. Go to the, yep, it's working, good. Admin, Comcat, 23, and then admin 123. No point in that. And there's our application, and that's running. There's the entries we added before, so everything's looking good. So now we know we can start and restop that server. That's important. So now we're going to, well, let's, so I'm on page 13. So now we have, what do we have going? We have one server running that we're talking to, and we have a database running, and the application service talking to the database. We configured that, you know, the server server XML file. And so now what we need is two more servers, two additional servers. Essentially, we need to clone this one. So back to 13. Right there. So there's two ways you can do this. One way is, rerun those steps that we just worked to set up the first server twice more, which, means editing that file twice more, which is no fun, no joy. Now, if you know how to use SCP, and I was tempted to do that, then you could copy the file from the server to your PC, and then, SCP it from the server to your PC, and then create those two servers, and then SCP it from your desktop, from your PC, to those two new servers, individually 1 and 2, and then you'd be ready to go. But I didn't want to show that because I didn't want to confuse people. So here's another thing, and so here's another way of doing it that's kind of interesting. So go back to the console, and in order to, so we're going to create a new AMI, a new image for this for the server. To do that, we need to shut it down. So that's here. We're back where we started, stopping the instance, I don't think it allows you to clone when it's running. In fact, I know you can't clone when it's running. So, all right, this will probably be good. So now I have to remember how to do this. I did it just a couple hours ago. Oh, images, AMIs. Okay, now this is one I created before, so ignore it. And this is what the one I created. Oh, okay, sorry. So what we need to do, this is we'll see the new image when we create it. Now just ignore this one. This is when I was created a few minutes ago, hours ago now, to test out the process before I did the video. So let's go back to EC2 dashboard, instances, and then we have the server selected, and then the actions, we want to create an image. So you have to give it a name. So I'm going to give this, no, I'm giving it a nonsense name because I want to make sure I remember to delete it later. So, but well, let's do one you might use. So you'll say to do web server clone, and then leave everything the same. Yep, let's leave it the same, and then down here. There we go. Create image. And now we'll go to AMIs. And now we see our servers being created, our templates being created. So this is essentially making a copy of that server that we just finished setting up. And I don't know, remember how long this took, but it seems like it didn't take really long. So I don't want to stop the video again. So let's 9:48. So I'm just going to sit here and push this button, and you can skip ahead on the video 10 seconds until I'm no longer doing this. I don't remember taking a long time, but it seems to me it was done by now. Maybe I will interrupt the video. Murphy's Law is the moment I interrupt the video, this is going to go to available. All right. Oh, there we go. Just as I was about to hit F9 and stop the video. Okay, so now you have this to-do web server clone that we just created, and we're going to use that to create 2 new instances. So we'll go back to EC2 dashboard, and we'll go to instances, and we will go launch instance. And then you can go to My AMIs, and you will find the clone, the AMI you just built. So select, and it's the same process. Now I had to reboot the machine. Filmora, my film recording program, was acting weird, and I think it was operator error, but anyway, I rebooted the PC in between the last time we broke the video. My point being, I need to remember so I have to go back, and I need to copy down which security group I was using so I can use it again twice. think I need to select it again. So let's just make sure before we get too far into it. EC2 instances. Okay, this is the one we built. And the security group is where? Did we go past it? Stopped. Oh, because I stopped it. Well, let's start it while we're at it. So it'll be ready when I next need it. So instance state, start instance. All right. I'm really tired. And I'm sure what I'm looking for is right in front of me. Looking for the security group. Should list it here. On that. All right. To do web service security. All right, well, that'll do. Okay. So now we're going to create the two new servers. So the instances, which is where we're at. Launch instance. My AMIs, the one you created. Then review and launch. And security group. See, it didn't use the security group. So edit security group and select an existing security group and to do web service SG. None of these guys then. Well, I know this one will work. That is bugging me. I don't want to create a new one, select existing. I expect to see that security group there. Okay, well, we could create a new one. Just use that name. Web server security group. Yeah, that is correct. I'm going to give it a 2 just to be sure it doesn't step on something else. And again, SSH, but we want to make it anywhere. And then add a rule, custom 4352, anywhere. And then review and launch. Okay, so now we have the new roles. And we'll launch. And then you have to select the key group that you saved earlier. Now launch. And view instances. And that's the new one we created. So let's rename it to do 02. Did I screw that up? Apparently I did. To do Okay, I'm not doing that. It's like it's the keyboard's doing something. My God. All right. Phew. Whatever. It says it's running already because I took so long getting it going. So let's check that one out. So here's our public DNS name for that new server. Copied it. Let's just open up a new page so there's no confusion. 4352. And it's there. And it's asked us to authenticate again. We'll come back to that later. I know, you're not happy. Let's do it one more time. Launch instance. My AMIs, the one we cloned, create, take the default, preview and launch. Security group, this won't do. Edit security group. Select existing security group. I don't know why it's whatever. 3 SSH anywhere, add rule, custom, anywhere, review and launch. There's our ports, launch. View instances. Here's a new one. Zero 03. That's, I don't know why that's clearing like that. Running. Select it, see if we can contact it, see if it's working. Get the public DNS of that one. Open it up. Colon 4352. And it says it's running, but I don't think it's quite running yet. Yeah, it says pending. Yeah. Didn't it say running? It's lying. Oh, it's running, but still initializing. Again, I don't want to interrupt the video. You can just click ahead until you don't see me doing this. My experience has been sometimes these things, run right away, and sometimes they take forever. Okay, I'm about to stop the video because this might be a take forever, but I'm hoping it's like playing the lottery. The next button, the next time I press this, it'll clear. Oh, wonder if it'll work anyway. Let's try it again anyway. So, got the IP address. (4352). Oh, it worked. All right, so 3862. 3862. Oh, it's in running state now. Okay. And it's good to just test all three of them. So we'll test the first one. Still says it's initializing. Whatever. Okay, first one, we'll test it. Get the address. And we'll go here and paste that address in, 217, colon 4352 / to-do web app. And boom, got the application. Okay, then we'll go back here and we'll go to instances and we'll select the second one. Copy, so this one's 151. I'm just looking at the last, part of the IP address. Copied it, 151. And we'll just go in here and come on, delete everything up to the port number V151 : 4352 to do web app, and that one's running. And I think we already looked at the third one, but let's just, for the sake of completeness, go here and copy the address and V62, return. Okay, so all three are running. So now we have three, go back here. 3 instances, go back to here. Well, not that. Where's my Word document? So now we're going to install the load balancer, but let's review that slide one more time. 3 servers talking to the database. We know that because the application, when we bring the application up, we see those entries. We see these entries. These entries are coming from the database. So all 3, and they each have different server information, but we'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so now we need, what we're missing, the only thing we're missing now is the load balancer. So let's install a load balancer. So, load balancer. So I'm going to load balancer, let's look at the documentation. And test server startup, install the load balancer. Okay, now, oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Decided that I've been going on too long here without authenticating, so let me get that. Oh. 275. Work. All right, back in business. I set up the authenticator because I don't know, it's a good idea because people hack your account and then they run up all kinds of charges. They basically will install robots, to spam people. They love that. Anyway, it's a good idea to fix it. So select load balancer, create a load balancer. Now, that might look right, but it's not. Use create, use, I could have sworn it said classic. Oh, right down here. I guess the scale changed. I was used to seeing it at the end. I set the screen size down for the recording. So yeah, use classic load balancer. Don't use gateway, it wouldn't work. In fact, you should be using this, but this is too much trouble to set up. This is easy peasy to set up, and it demonstrates what we need to do anyway. So create, so give it a name. To do, duo, LB for load balancer. Leave that off. And then, so what's going to happen, let's just look at that diagram again. So on this side of the load balancer, we've been using port 4352 because we've been accessing these servers from the internet. And technically, from a security point of view, that shouldn't happen. So we've been creating SSH and 4352 gateways, so security groups that let us access these servers individually from the public internet. And in a real world, that would be a horrible idea. But anyway, we're just doing it to set things up for demonstration. So, well, now we're going to put a load balancer. And on this side, we want it to be at port 80, just like any other HTTP traffic. And on this side, we're using 4352. So that's what's going on here. The load balancer point, this is the port that's facing the public. We'll leave it 80, but the instance port is 4352. So next, assign security groups. And here's all the security groups that I couldn't find before. I don't know why they didn't show up. But let's set up a new one. Whatever. At this point, who cares? We'll call it the the to-do web app SG02, because I want to be sure I'm not going to collide with some other name that's already out there, some security group that's already out there. And then we're going to set this to anywhere, which it was, and apparently it was already, which makes sense. So port 80, anywhere, and then next we're going to set the security settings. Just leave it alone. We don't need anything because we're not using SSH. This is the bad idea, of course, but again, just a demo. Okay, now we're going to set the timeouts. So this is a little bit tricky. Make sure you get it right. It's pretty well explained in the document. Install load balancer. So did a classic load balancer. We left those set. We configured a security group. Okay, so I didn't mention a security group here. I guess I should have put something about setting up this new security group here. Yeah. I have to edit this document tomorrow. Load balancer security group. So I'll put a word in here about that. Okay, now maybe I'll explain this in class, but let's just get it over with here. So in this file name, you need to put this text, to do. I can almost copy and paste, I'm sure. Make sure you don't get the period. Do not get the period. C, and then, so erase that, paste that in, make sure there's no spaces at either end. I'm not sure if it was even worth it. But to do web app, ping.txt, so that's fine. Response timeout and interval. So this is a load balancer, and if you remember, one of the responsibilities of a load balancer is detecting when the application server has died. And so what this load balancer will do is periodically it will access this document from the application server. So this document is a document in the WAR file that we installed. And if it times out, if the request for that document, if the HTTP request for this document times out, then the load balancer will assume that the application server has died for some reason. So that's its purpose. It's a ping echo. Remember ping echo recovery strategy, or fault detection strategy, I should say. This is going to do it's going to ping on this document, and if it doesn't get the document back, it just, it assumes that its app server is down. So the response time, 5 seconds, is way overkill, but we'll leave it there. But we want to reduce the interval because it'll take forever for it to start. So make this 6. It has to be larger than response time. This is fine at 2, but set this to 2 as well. And the only thing that'll happen here is this application server will show up. Well, you'll see in a second. The servers will show up on time as online much more quickly than they would otherwise. Okay, so that's done. So left of the HTTP, ping port 4352. This is the port that the load balancer is pinging the app servers, 1, 2, 3. This is the document it's looking for. This is how many seconds it waits until it times out, which is, again, way overkill, because this could be half a second and still be overkill. Interval has to be greater than that. And then these thresholds set both to 2. And then now we're going to add the servers. So we have 3 servers. 1, 2, 3. And just leave that alone. And that's done. So make sure you have the 3 servers and they're running. We're not going to add any tags. Review and create. And Yeah, we added a security group, so we're good. Being created, it's done. And so now we'll look here. So here's our 3 servers. And right now they're out of service because the machine has the load balancer is going to ping them each twice every 5 or 10 seconds. So, we could just refresh this here, I believe. I think this is actually, we need, let's see, this still out of service. They're going to come online. Crossing my fingers. If I'm doing that right. In service. There we go. All 3 are in service. So now we have a load balancer and it has 3 servers. And let's test it. So what we need now is we have to go here, and now we're not going to contact the application servers. Instead, we're going to contact the load balancer. So we need to get this whole string correctly, just like that. Make sure you get the whole thing and copy it, and then bring it up here. Start a new one of these, I suppose. Now, we don't need 4352 because it's working at port 80. So just to do web app. And boom, there it is. Now, how do we know it's a load balancer is working? So we're going to get the server information. So this is just something I built into the application. It's a web service request that gets the server's IP address, which there's a syscall for. There's a system or a Java mechanism for that. So I'm going to get the first one, and that is 245. So if we go back here, instances, and this doesn't give us the IP addresses, so we go to EC2 dashboard, instances, and does it give us the, there it is. So I said what again? 217, what did I say? 245, so that's the idea, 245, and it's making me a liar. That's, I know, this is the public address. We want the private address, so this is becoming more trouble than it's worth. That's the public. Here's the private, 245. And the next one is private address. One of these will be 52. So we'll go back here. We'll press it again, and there's 52. And we'll press it again, and 245, 22. I'm just looking at this last part of the address. 52, 245, 22, 52. So you can see that the load balancer, every time we send a request, the load balancer is sending it to the next server, round robin fashion. 52, 120, whatever the numbers were, 52, 122, X, ABC, ABC. And so it shows it's working. Let's see it just so I can see how we've come so far. Let's shut one down, one of the instances down, and it'll take it out. So just select that one, and instance state, stop instance. We're going to shut down that server. Yes, please. And stopping, I guess it's out. Go back here. I'm not sure which one we took out, but now we should only see 2. 245, 22, 245, 22. So we're only seeing 2. And if we go back to the load balancer, and instances and out of service. One of them is out of service. The one we shut down, obviously, is out of service. So if you go back to the server and select it, action, say start instance, but it's going to take a while to start, and honestly, I don't feel like waiting for that. Pending right there. I was looking at that. Pending, so it'll go and it'll start and it'll go back into the eventually. Oops, I want to go to the load balancer. Eventually, we should see it. Probably will take a couple of minutes. It'll go back to in service, and then it will be, here one of the 3 entries. Okay, that's it then. So that is finished. Took a while, but so the only thing I can offer is then, I will talk about the class, but there's a document you need to fill in with the IP addresses of the load balancer and the application server, but I'll probably only test the load balancer. Give, whatever information I ask for in this review document, fill it in and then submit the document with your name and into the folder, and then you're done. So then what you need to do is when you're finished with all that, you need to tear all this down. Otherwise, you're going to get billed. You might get billed for it. So you need to do the load balancer and select it, and then go to actions and delete. I hate to do it. I think I'll leave it up because I'll demonstrate with this tomorrow. This being Monday night at 10:15. And then, so just kind of tear it down in reverse order. Then go to the instances and select one or all 3, and go to actions, and I think you'd go to state terminate instance. So when you go to terminate, I don't want to do that. Obviously, I want to keep them running. But when you terminate the instance, it'll it'll delete those 3 servers. And then finally, remember the database is running. Don't forget the database. That will cost for sure. So then go back to the console and go to RDS and go to databases, and then the database you created, go to actions and delete. And then when it asks if you want to make a backup, say no. And so you'll tear down all 4 things, the server, the load balancer, the 3 servers, the database, and you should be able to leave your account active. You shouldn't have to shut down your account, and you shouldn't be billed. Oh, you might delete that the clone you created. So go to AMI, and in fact, I want to get rid of one of these. That one. So we'll just go and actions, and then I think in this case it's deregister. Continue, and then that's gone. So you want to delete your clones, and I think at that point, you don't have to shut your account down, your AWS account down. You shouldn't be getting billed for anything. If in a month from now, if you review your Amazon statement and you see charges for AWS, then you'll probably need to tear down your AWS account as well. Honestly, I don't know exactly because I just leave mine going, but I'm paying like $15 a month, but I keep forgetting to shut down servers and stuff, so they leave them running and I get billed for not a lot. But anyway, that's all I really have for this. So we'll talk about this in class, but otherwise we're done. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm out of here.